Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio and today we have to talk about a lot of things because Coppa Italia is coming up next Tuesday, Lazio Juventus. But in the meantime, Lazio won another game against Genoa, an away game, Alasdair. And this is quite a surprise, right? Because this season, if we have to say that Lazio struggle, especially in the away games, we lost against Salernitana, and I want to reiterate, Salernitana didn't win a lot of games, but was able to beat Lazio. We lost away against Lecce. I mean, we lost so many points in away games. It was good to win one against Genoa. That is not a bad team for me.
Yeah, and if you look all the way back to the start of this pretty crap season, to be honest, that was one of the worst results. Was right at the start, I guess. Well, I mean, drawing with Genoa at the time, it didn't seem like the end of the world, but in retrospect now, it was probably a sign of things to come. The struggles to win these winnable games against teams lower down the table. But I think for Laziali, certainly Genoa away is always one of these games where you're kind of locked in, looking at the fixture calendar, going, "Oh God, here we go," just because of that terrible period we had for so long, where this was such a kind of mental block for the team that they can win these games. So 3 points is good, no doubt about it. 4 wins in the last 5 in Serie A is good. Then again, the performance wasn't incredible. So I don't know, where do you stand on it? What are we looking for at the moment? I mean, 3 points is 3 points, right?
Absolutely, especially in this moment. Let's talk about the performance, and then we're going to talk about the table, etc., what this victory means for us. Tudor said, not a great first half. We were in control in the second one. I thought we created more chances in the first half. Obviously, we conceded more in the first, but we need a number 9 that scores. I mean, I tweeted during the match, Lazio has the only number 9 that in front of the goalkeeper, instead of trying to score, do a back heel and waste a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure this is particularly fresh analysis. Lazio need a number 9. But yeah, I mean, you know, it is amazing that by week, what are we on, week 33 of the season, we're kind of still talking about this, I guess, because every week it is an issue that raises its head again. I was reading today that Tati's XG by the end of the game was 0.05. So that's pretty poor. I mean, usually the issue with Tati, and actually, if you look at the Opta website, Tati's actually in the top 5 in Serie A in terms of average XG per game. I think he's 5th in the entire league. But he just doesn't finish any of his chances. And that's generally the story with him, is that at least he gets in the positions, but he can't finish. Whereas the problem here was he wasn't even really getting in the positions. There wasn't real opportunities for him. So it's the same old thing, really. You know, the opportunities to score aren't really there. The kind of composure in front of goal certainly wasn't there. That said, I mean, the goal we did score, I think, was one of the best Lazio goals we've seen for quite a while. It was beautiful. And it was, you know, absolutely perfect narrative for everyone that the goal was created by 3 players who probably won't be at Lazio next season.
Well, who knows? Well, Felipe Anderson for sure won't be here. He signed for Palmeiras, so Brazilian team. He's going back home. I think this is better than everybody was hoping. You know, signing for Juventus would have been not the best way to end this relationship with Felipe Anderson. Kamada and Luis Alberto, well, Luis Alberto has still 4 years of contract. I don't think it's going to be easy for him to leave. Kamada, it's a different story. He denied what Fabrizio Romano said, that he has to pay, what was it, 100 euro to stay for Lazio. He said he still didn't make his mind. So, yeah, it's bizarre that the most top players, well, I would say Guendouzi was the only one missing there, right? Because there were rumors about Guendouzi as well, and we're going to talk later about that. But I thought Kamada played one of the best games with Lazio shirts so far.
Yeah. that's in this really chaotic, turbulent period that Tudor has been in charge. I think that's been the biggest positive. Probably has been the kind of, I was going to say the renaissance of Kamada, but it's not even that, because he was never really, he never really got going to begin with. So he's found a place in this team. He's found a formation that he likes playing in, a system and a style he likes playing. I think it's taken everyone by surprise a little bit that role is a deeper role, more of a playmaker role than an attacking midfielder role. But yeah, he certainly, he impressed. Really nice assist. I read that was his first goal involvement for 19 games. So it's taken a while, and it's nice to see him actually get something on the board again to show for these definitely improved performances. And Alberto then being the man to tuck it in. And it's just classic Alberto, isn't it, Vittorio? If you can sum up his Lazio career in a week, it's probably this, so telling everyone he doesn't want another Euro last Friday, and then within a week, he's kissing the badge and pointing at the badge as he celebrates scoring a winning goal. I mean, what do we make of Alberto? Same old stuff?
I don't know. I don't know. My feeling, my impression was that he wanted to say, till I wear the shirt, I will give everything for Lazio. But, he knows he's not in the power to say, I'm leaving for sure. He just signed a new contract. So if nobody comes and offers the right amount of money, he's going to stay. So he has to do his best with this shirt. And I think that's what he wanted to say with that celebration. I think, I'm going to give my best for Lazio till I'm playing with the shirt. That's it. I think so. I don't think he changed his mind in 7 days, right?
No, I doubt it. I mean, to be fair, credit where it's due. I mean, I spend plenty of time on this podcast being very critical of the club and the way it's run. But I think this has been dealt with quite well, actually, in the last week, because there was a real opportunity to blow this up. And the risk was there that we spoke about last week of him being kind of frozen out of the squad, but still being under contract for another 3 years. Yeah. And, it would be such a waste, such a disaster. It could have soured very quickly. So I don't know who takes most credit for this, whether it's Alberto himself, whether it's Tudor or whoever. I find it hard to believe it's Lotito, but you never know. But clearly they found a way of continuing this relationship and getting over it and saying you can still be at the center of the club. The fact that he wasn't wearing the captain's armband, I don't think we need to, overreact to that. It's pretty obvious if you've got a player who's saying he's going to leave the club, that they shouldn't be captaining the club. Marisic as the guy who took it was interesting choice, I thought. But I think they do. I think it's been dealt with quite well, in a very un-Lazio way, that they've been able to just get him on the pitch and he's still performing and everyone still seems reasonably happy. And it's kind of working. It'll probably only be to the end of the season, but at the moment, that's all we need. We need to just get to the end of this really difficult season in the best way possible. So that was good.
So 5 years ago, I would never imagine say something like that, but Patrick has to be the next captain.
Yeah, well, that is a great question, isn't it?
I don't know if you heard the interview he made after the game. Every single word he said was perfect. I mean, he looks like such an experienced and such a great player that, I think he deserved to be the captain going forward. And I thought Maruic makes sense. He's the player with more caps for us. So I think that's the right choice. And it was funny because when Tudor subbed Luis Alberto, you could see him walking out of the pitch and he was so upset. He was talking to himself like, why the hell he's subbing me? I'm a great player, etc., etc. So that was old style Luis Alberto.
I think with the captaincy, Patrick's definitely one of the leaders in the squad. He's definitely one of the players that we can rely on the most to show that kind of passion, certainly, for the club. And he's been around for a long time by now. The problem with that, in my mind, is more the advantage Marisic has is also that he is one of the few players who just is nailed on. He plays every game in a way that Patrick doesn't. Whether we like it or not, whether we feel like he should play every game or not, Patrick isn't guaranteed to start every match. And we have to remember that the captain is Ciro Immobile. And the reason that we're talking about this in the first place is that Immobile isn't starting every match at the moment. So that's why it's being passed around. So that would be my doubt over Patrick, is that he's not guaranteed to be in the 11 every time.
Well, we have to see what, I mean, a lot of things changed in the past couple of weeks, no, with Tudor coming in. So, for example, I was surprised to see Casale coming off. Yes, he made a mistake that cost us a lot. Yes, he had a yellow card, but overall, I thought he wasn't playing that bad to justify a substitution.
I thought he did. Where I thought he did really well, actually, was that terrible mix-up at the end of the first half, and it was a 2-on-1. And his positioning was so clever there, where he was cutting off that passing avenue to Goodmanson, and that's the easier chance. You know, if he'd managed to square that, it's just a tap in. Whereas he keeps Ekaban wide, he cuts off that passing channel, and he basically says to him, fine, you're going to get a shot away, but it's at least a difficult lower percentage effort, and that he shoots wide. So I think that's kind of the good defending, like intelligent defending that you won't be in a highlight reel, you won't be on YouTube getting like social media pats on the back for that, but it's just good defending. So yeah, I did like that from him.
Were you surprised to see Vecino and Kamada starting? Because, you know, Rovella came back, he made the assist in 5 minutes he played. Cataldi as well can play in that position. But it looks like, for the moment, that Tudor is sticking with this duo Kamada-Vecino. And now the question is, now that Guendouzi is back, where is the Frenchman going to play?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And Rovella Guendouzi was obviously two of the three that were nailed on under Sarri when they were both fit. And now they don't seem to have an obvious place, really. I think Guendouzi has to be getting in that team, but obviously there are these difficulties with Tudor. There's the fact that he's only just recovering from injury. I think he could easily slip in front of Vecino, because, you know, similar-ish profile of player, I guess. If he wants it to be that you've got a kind of more slighter, more technical player alongside a more dynamic and physical player in those two roles, then you could have Rovella and Guendouzi in there as well. I think Rovella is the one who's going to struggle at the moment, because Kamada's kind of in the position that he would take, I would have thought. I don't know if he would go with Rovella and Kamada alongside each other. So,
do you think he can slide as a trequartista as he did at the end of the game against Genoa? He did it a couple of times, right? Kamada moving forward a little bit. That is the position, I guess, everybody thought he should have been playing with Tudor, right? Instead, he's playing there in front of the defense. I think maybe playing trequartista could be a solution to play, you know, Guendouzi and Rovella as well.
He can definitely do it. It's just that I think the best performances he's had have been in the deeper role.
So far, yes.
And I think the other thing is, you're kind of, if there was some certainty over Kamada's future, then it would make a little bit sense as well. You might be able to say, okay, well, two of the guys who are currently occupying those positions are Anderson and Alberto. And there's so much doubt over, well, no doubt left over Anderson's future, but a lot of doubt over Alberto's, that you could say if Kamada was under contract, you could say, well, let's put him into those roles and give him some responsibility there, because next season he might be needed there. But because Kamada's as much in doubt as everybody else, you don't really have that argument to make. So, yeah, I mean, it's useful. Like we said previously, he suddenly kind of quadrupled his chances of getting a place in this team, because he is able to play in either of those two central deeper positions or the two central number 10 positions. So it is very useful having someone who can move between, and that's something, I guess, that acts against Rovella as well. he can't really play for the forward. Guendouzi, I don't think is really a number 10 either. So Vecino, I don't think really is. So Kamada, as someone who can move between the lines like that, is very handy.
After the performance of Friday, I asked everybody, what do you think? What would be the future of Kamada? So I'm asking to you as well, Alasdair. Do you think he's staying? Do you think he's leaving? Do you think these final games will decide the future of the Japanese player?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do actually get the feeling that his uncertainty is genuine. I think there's a lot of reason to be skeptical when players say, you know, I don't have any offers, we're considering everything, see at the end of the season. A lot of the time you can be like, well, yeah, okay, is that actually true, or have you already sorted everything out? But there's no doubt that, you know, 2 months ago, Kamada would have thought, I'm out of here, because what is the point of staying if he wasn't getting any games, he wasn't playing in a style or a system that he liked, there was no need for him to stay. Whereas now, if he is getting all this added responsibility, and especially Lazio are suddenly looking like they've got real things to fight for this season, and he can be at the center of that, suddenly it looks like a good place for him to be. And now, obviously, that kind of depends as well what his other offers would be, which he might not know yet. So I do believe him that he is thinking everything over still, because it's been a real curveball for him to suddenly end up in this situation.
Absolutely. I mean, if you imagine that with Sarri at a certain point, not only he wasn't starting, he was even coming in. I mean, I think he played 5 games in a row where he didn't play a single minute. So, you know, football is bizarre, right? You move from 5 games where you're not even coming in 5 games that you're starting every single game. That's strange, right? And can change the season of a player, obviously.
Yeah, his path, the kind of narrative arc of Kamada this season has been fascinating, because it's gone from kind of being the Milinkovic-Savic successor to being the Luis Alberto alternative, to being nowhere to be seen, not in the squad, to now being this kind of regista who's at the center of a Tudor project. I mean, it's bizarre. He's had a bit of everything. I still do think like the club should really be pressing as much as they can to get that done, because if you can get him locked in for next season, if you are committed to Tudor and his football and his project, we've spoken about this time and again, so we don't need to do it one more time, but there's a hell of a lot of work needing done in the transfer window, and having a player this versatile who knows how to play this football, who fits into the system, if he's already in your ranks and all you need to do is convince him to sign a contract, that is a huge opportunity for the club. They can't let that one slip, so they really need to be getting a move on with that, as they only did with Zakanye as well. So.
Yeah, we have to talk about the signing. Before, to finish with Kamada, he did an interview yesterday with a Japanese website, and I don't know if the translation is correct, because Japanese is quite difficult, but he basically said that he's very happy now, that Tudor understand what he wants from him, that he's playing like when he was in Germany. So obviously very different compared to when he spoke when he was under Sarri. So I think there is a really option to keep him. And at the same time, Alasdair, it's bizarre because we talked about Lazio needing to sign a lot of players, but in exchange, we have far too many midfielders, right? You mentioned Guendouzi, Rovella, Cataldi, Vecino, Kamada, Luis Alberto. There are far too many for few spots. So probably someone will have to leave, right, this summer.
Yeah. I mean, you can see Vecino maybe going, you can see Alberto maybe going as things stand. I mean, you know, for those spots, it depends if you're talking about the 2 in the middle or if you're including the number 10s, because then there's Pedro, obviously, is on the way out. Anderson's on the way out. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a good degree of options, especially in a really important area of the pitch, and especially with so much else to do in terms of wing back, strikers, attacking players, centre backs, everything else, basically. Unless we can convert some of these guys into other positions, turn them into a bunch of Caparolos and just have them, playing wing back,
everywhere.
playing centre back. Yeah, that's maybe the best way to go.
We talked about Felipe Anderson. He's leaving. He's moving to Palmeiras. But 24 hours later, we got the announcement of Zaccagni staying, which it's finally good news, right, Alasdair? Because rumors were that Lazio was struggling to find a deal with the agent. The agent was nearly 1 year that he was complaining that Lazio was nowhere to be found, no meetings scheduled, etc. And then Felipe Anderson announced he's leaving, and then immediately comes the news of Zaccagni staying. I think that's a good news because, well, Zaccagni is the youngest there, and last year he's been very useful. Now, this season he's been injury-prone, so he didn't play that much, but I think he's a good option for Lazio, right?
Yeah, well, it's definitely, he's not had a great season, but he certainly did last year and the year before, and I think it's just obvious. It's important to make sure your better players are tied down on as long deals as possible, and I think a lot of people are kind of like, the timing of it happening so quickly after the Anderson news. I don't know, is it suddenly remind them that they needed to do that, or was that just on course to happen anyway within that time frame? It was a bit confusing and a bit frustrating because you've just lost Anderson. So it is great to have him tied down. Could be an important player if he can just find a bit of fitness and form again. And again, someone who could be really useful in this system because, it's worth remembering that although at Lazio, we've seen him just playing on the left wing. We signed him from a Verona team that was playing this system, the 3-4-2-1, where he was being used as a kind of trequartista. So he is used to playing in that role and can be really effective there.
Yeah, he never played under Tudor, but the system was pretty much the same. So he knows that system. So that's useful. And I think that probably moving him closer to the goal will be useful, would allow him to score more goals. Talking about signing new contract, a lot of rumors in the last week or so on Guendouzi. There was rumors saying that Lazio needed to finish in the top 7, top 12, etc. Then 2 days ago, I don't remember which Lazio website said that Lazio decided to sign Guendouzi, to buy Guendouzi, which it looks like it wasn't a decision. It was just automatically if Lazio finish in the top 12 or so. So Guendouzi is staying. A lot of rumors of him discussing with Tudor. Tudor after the game said there's nothing about it. He's just been injured. He's one of our best players, etc. The fact is, though, that he didn't start a very important match when he was available. Tudor said he was coming back from the national team, but do you think that's it? Or, as we were mentioning before, it's not easy to find the right spot for Guendouzi now with Kamada playing so well?
Well, I mean, I think that there is an obvious spot, which is Vecino's spot. I think he deserves to be in this team ahead of Vecino on the basis of the season both of them have had, and I quite like the balance of that midfield with the two of those guys together. But I guess the biggest test of where he really stands in the hierarchy will be Tuesday against Juventus, because it's a big game. It's a game Lazio have to go and attack and to win. It's a game that will require the strongest 11 as Tudor sees it. And there's no doubts left over his fitness. By the sounds of things, he's completely recovered. So if he's still on the bench on Tuesday night, then we'll know that he doesn't have a place so high up the hierarchy.
But you can say that he just recovered from an injury, so maybe he's not 100% fit or hasn't got 90 minutes. Talking about the Juventus game, first thing, very disappointed. Yesterday I bought other 2 tickets. So the Distinti Nord row 48 is going to be the Campanile row, but the stadium is empty. guys, semi-final, Lazio Juventus. This is absurd. I mean, okay, we didn't have a great season, but this game could change the season, right? If you win 3-0, and I know it's difficult, but this Juventus, guys, did you see the last game of Juventus? I mean, they're not playing great. I think there's a chance. I don't understand Lazio fans that don't buy the ticket and don't go to watch this game if you're in Rome.
No, absolutely. And like, chance to win a trophy is right in front of you. And maybe it's the first deficit. People kind of see Juventus 2, Lazio 0 coming into this, and they think, "Oh, okay, that's over." But it really isn't. This is a poor Juventus team. Juventus team in bad form. Yeah, Juventus team we beat, 2 weeks ago. I don't get it, Vittorio. I mean, we've spoken about this repeatedly over the years, and I still don't get it really as much as I ever did. So,
you know what I don't get? How did we lose 2-0 to this Juventus? I mean, I still cannot understand how it was possible. They're rubbish. They're really, but I mean, don't get me wrong. They have a lot of talented players, Vlahovic, Rabiot, etc., etc. But they're playing rubbish football, and they're conceding so many goals. And we lost 2-0 to them. This is unbelievable from my point of view, obviously.
Yeah, I think probably showed them a bit too much respect. I mean, it's something Juve will always have going for them, is the fear factor of just being Juventus, and especially when they're in Turin and at home and so on. I think they do manage to bully teams even when they're not playing particularly well. I mean, that game, I guess a lot of it was just down to the absolutely awful defensive set. But yeah, I think the issue that Lazio fans will have in terms of believing in this is really the fact that you've got that deficit to make up, and this is a team that just cannot seemingly score goals. The Salernitana game was promising just in the sense of building on the the idea that we're spending a lot more time in the final third, or putting more pressure on teams in the final third. We're committing a lot more bodies forward in these attacks and all that. And against Salernitana, a much weaker opponent, that paid off ultimately with four goals. But then a week later, you go and play Genoa, who are a bang mid-table team, and still we only get one. And that I think was the only shot on target in the entire game. So
yeah,
thinking of this team going and smashing Juve 3-0, it might be quite difficult for people, despite how bad they are.
Yeah, but to be honest, in the second half, we had two huge opportunity, and two defender deflected the ball that was heading to the goal. I don't know if, well, probably the Felipe Anderson one, we would have scored without the deflection. The Patrick one, I'm not sure, but it would have definitely go in the box, right? So in the goal. So the goalkeeper should have said that. But talking about this, Alasdair, in the second half, I was surprised because Tudor subbed Castellanos, and I'm not surprised about that. We talked about Castellanos, etc. But we were used to see Felipe Anderson moving number 9 or, playing that position. Instead, he took off Felipe Anderson and put Pedro number 9. And I thought Pedro played well there. I thought that Pedro was creating space for the other players. And do you think that could be an option going forward, especially considering that 95% Chiro's going to be out on Tuesday? So you're going to have Oli Castellanos. Pedro could be the plan B.
I think that's the first positive thing I've heard you say about Pedro for months.
I was surprised, honestly. He played well there. Better than in the past, right? Well, I think trequartista, he cannot do it anymore. He doesn't have that energy to do it. Number 9, he moved less, and he moved most of all going forward. So, you always have energy when you're attacking.
Well, if you remember looking back to last season when Immobile got injured and we were in that position of we didn't have any strikers. I remember when we were kind of discussing what would happen next, the Pedro playing as a 9 seemed like the more obvious choice in a way, because he's got experience from doing that previously, and he's got a lot of intelligence too. So obviously Anderson ended up playing there instead of him. but it's something, you know, that's been thought about certainly before. And yeah, I mean, I think he is, you know, he is a player with unbelievable quality and experience, and he's a player who's offered a lot at Lazio in the years he's been here. And he's not going to want to go out with a whimper. You know, he's not going to want to leave having not contributed in the way he wants. So I think we'll probably see quite a motivated, fired up Pedro in these final few weeks. I hope so anyway, because he'll know what there is to play for here. I mean, it's useful having someone who's won so many trophies just in the room with everyone while they're trying to do that, because there's not a lot of winners in this squad.
No.
I'd be surprised if he started, though, if that's what you...
Well, to be honest with you, after the Castellanos performance, I wouldn't be that surprised. I would be surprised, but not that much, to be honest. I mean, you need a number 9 that does better. Do you think that seeing Castellano playing is making Ciro Immobile look better?
Well, not really. Well, not really, because, you know, I was going to say they've been as bad as each other this season. They haven't really. I think Ciro has been more effective than Tati has, but yeah, it's not been a brilliant season for either of them. What do you think? Are you backing us to pull it off Tuesday, the comeback?
Well, it's funny because they are sign of progress of this team. We are creating much more than before, and on the other side, Juventus is playing poorly, and the fact that it's in Rome and not in Turin give us more opportunity. It's going to be hard, but let's remember that Lazio can even only score 2 goals and go through the penalty shootout. So that's the thing we have to remember. And this leads me to the other question, Alasdair, because as you were mentioning at the beginning, Lazio won 4 of the last 5 games in Serie A. And all the other teams, you know, we saw Napoli yesterday, it was embarrassing, but Juventus drew against Cagliari. All the other teams are a little bit like slowing down. Do you think Lazio's playing better, or is it simply that now the schedule, the fixture for us, it's easier and we are playing weaker team, and so that's why we're winning?
I still think that, I mean, 4 wins out of 5 in Serie A sounds great, but it doesn't really tell the whole story in terms of the other games that have come in between that and the way the team's been playing in general and everything else that's been going on in the background. So my main doubt is still, I think in another year, in other circumstances, you would start to get quite excited around this point about your chances. But just, I still don't feel like this team is going to be able to put the run together to close that gap. I mean, look, the fixture list is promising, particularly because Roma and Bologna play each other tomorrow on Monday. So that means obviously one or both of them is going to drop points. Now I've got the remaining run-ins up here. We've got Verona, Monza, Empoli, Inter, Sassuolo. So obviously only one big game there is Inter, who are going to definitely have the Scudetto won by that point. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be an easy game, but it does take the edge off it a bit. Whereas, I mean, I don't have to read out every team's running, but if you just take Roma, for example, who are the team just above us at the moment, I mean, their running is not easy at all. They've got Bologna tomorrow, then Napoli, then Juventus, then Atalanta, and then Genoa and Empoli. So their next 4 games in a row are all big games. So I don't know. My main doubt is still about Lazio, and although those games on paper sound easy, there's a lot of teams down there fighting for their lives. I mean, Empoli have just gone and beaten Napoli. You know, it's. I don't think any of those games will be as easy as they sound. So I still think it's a bit too much work to do. But my question to you is, after your big proclamation last week, are you now getting worried you're going to have to buy one of our listeners a new Lazio shirt?
I repeat, I would be so happy to do it, but I don't believe it, unfortunately. I mean, you mentioned Roma, but you know that Roma will find a way to sneak in the top 5. Bologna is far away for us, so it's going to be really difficult for us. And as you were mentioning, the fixture is easy for us, but we lost against Lecce, Salernitana, Genoa. I mean, nothing is easy for this team, unfortunately. Nothing.
And I should mention, sorry, just in case anyone somehow missed this, but this week it was confirmed that 5th place will be a Champions League spot. So that's what we're looking at now.
Yeah, and we have to remember that with this, if Fiorentina doesn't win the Coppa Italia, then the 6th and the 7th place will be Europa League, and the 8th will be Conference. So that's something we have to remind.
But if Roma or Atalanta win the Europa League, we could have 6 teams in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Something, I mean, we don't need to go through it all because it does get very complicated. There's a way of Italy having like 10 teams in Europe next season, so there's not much point in talking about it until we know a bit more. But Atalanta and Roma both going through in the Europa League is probably good for Lazio in this sense as well because of that. That's a huge deal for both of those clubs to try and get to that final. You're shaking your head.
When Roma goes through, it's never good for Lazio. Alasdair, come on, these are the basics.
In terms of adding more, minutes in the legs and distracting them and so on. Obviously, in their case, they've got this unfortunate situation with their game being abandoned last weekend when Evan Ndicka had his health scare, and that means they now have to go up to Udine next week to play 15 minutes. And
come on, it's 15 minutes. Really? They're making a story for 20 minutes. Come on.
No, I'm pointing out that they've got a lot more travel and fixtures on their list to distract them while they've got all these big Serie A games going on.
Yeah, but De Rossi said the Serie A doesn't help us, blah, blah, blah. 20 minutes. And you're not going to Moscow or Scotland. It's Udinese. It's, 1 hour flight? Come on. Can we talk about something that is more serious than that? When is Roma-Bologna playing?
Monday, 6:30.
And what happened on Tuesday at the same stadium, 24 hours later?
I believe there's a Coppa Italia semi-final, Vittorio.
Between Lazio and Juventus, and nobody's talking about this. This is the worst thing Serie A could do, right? The Stadio Olimpico is rubbish. The pitch is terrible. And in less than 24 hours, 2 games will be played there. And one of these games is really, really important because Lazio need to score 3 goals to go through. It's a semi-final of Coppa Italia. I mean,
at least if the pitch is in bad condition, it will stop all this free-flowing football that Juventus like to play. So,
yeah. I mean, this is the things that the people should be talking about, not 20 minutes in Udine. Come on. I think that
I made the mistake of mentioning Roma too much in front of Vittorio, but anyway, the point is like that you can I can see why people can make the argument looking at the fixtures and everything else going on in the context of the season. I can understand why people are making the argument that Lazio are in a promising place. But yeah, I would just reiterate that my main doubt is whether Lazio can realistically finish the season as strongly as they would need to, in terms of probably winning 5 games left, probably need to win another 4 of those to stand a chance.
Which is not impossible. I mean,
not impossible, but
I saw the team playing much better and the confidence grow, which is important. But, still, I won't be Champions League. For me, it's really, really hard. Europe League, I think it's achievable, especially seeing what Napoli is doing. But
I think by this stage, they should finish in the Europa League places. Now that 7th place is Europa, I think that really should be the expectation. And it would be disappointing not to. But 5th place, more challenging. But at least it is 5th place now and not 4th, because 4th would have been almost impossible, I think.
Alasdair, I think we hardly mentioned Mandas in this podcast. I think we should talk about the goalkeeper, right? He's been playing a lot. Nobody expected that. And he's been playing even in tough games, right? The Derby twice, Coppa Italia against Juventus, Serie A against Juventus. What did you make about this goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think he looks decent. I think people got overexcited about him to begin with. I think he's obviously young. He's been thrown into a situation he probably didn't expect, which is to be first choice for so long in such an important part of the season. I think we've seen some good stuff from him. I think we've seen some less convincing stuff from him. I think he's a good number 2. I think that's what it is. I don't think we need to necessarily big him up too much, raise expectations that this guy is the future Lazio keeper for 10 years and so on. I think Provedel is certainly a better keeper, and Provedel is a fantastic goalkeeper. So we are going to miss him. But Mandas has stepped up to the challenge, admirably. I'm not quite as excited about him as some other people are, but I think he's done well.
I think the most important thing to point out about Mandas is he's very young, and we see very good goalkeeper making mistakes at that point, and he didn't. I don't remember a bad mistake from Mandas so far. We saw Carnesecchi last year and this year making mistakes. We saw other young goalkeepers making mistakes. So the most important thing is he didn't do nothing astonishing. I don't remember a save where you say, wow, this was unbelievable. But at the same time, there's not a single goal where you say, well, he could have done better here, right? So I think this is really important, because one of the most important things about goalkeepers, especially when they're young, is not making huge mistakes, which he didn't. And obviously, Provedel is the starter, and he's better at the moment. But looking forward, it's good to have an option, especially if these rumors of Provedel signing with Manchester United get real. Lazio would have a plan B, or do you think we should need to sign another goalkeeper to start?
I just don't believe that Man United would go after Provedel in the first place. No, I think look, you need 2 good options in goal, especially with a 60-match season. You definitely do. And it's not something we've always had. So I think we just need to be satisfied with the way it is, having a good option there. I mean, look at Atalanta. They've got Carnesecchi and Musso as their 2 options. It is very useful to have good goalkeepers, and you can alternate them if one goes out of form, or you can play one in the cups and one in league, whatever. But it's just a very handy thing to be able to do. And I think it's becoming more and more kind of fashionable in modern football to rotate 2 kind of equal goalkeepers rather than having a nailed-on guy who starts every week. So we'll see how Mandas does. Like you say, he's 22. There's no rush with this guy, but he also will need to play games. So it's useful for him at this stage to be able to take advantage of Provedel's situation.
Alasdair, if you don't have any stats, I think we can wrap it up here.
No, that's me for today.
Wow.
All finished.
Okay, so guys, thanks again for listening. Tuesday there's a huge game, and then there's Saturday there's another very important game. Again, they changed the fixture, Alasdair. Lazio was supposed to play on Sunday. Instead, we're playing on Saturday. So I will have to go back earlier than I expected from my holiday. But we're going to be back after Saturday's game. What is it? Lazio Verona, right?
Yeah.
With another podcast. Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen it. And if you didn't, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye, guys. Take care.